Let us begin by acknowledging that we are on indigenous land, the traditional homeland of the Coast Salish people, the Muckleshoot, the Duwamish, the Suquamish, the Tulalip, Snoqualmie, and the Puyallup, who, since time immemorial, have taken care of, hunted, fished, and gathered and buried their ancestors on these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their dispossession from these lands, their right to self-determination, and we honor their ongoing and their sacred spiritual connection to these lands and these waters. And thank you for listening to that. As a Native American, I want to just say how important it is for me, for my people, to stand with you, to recognize that hate and violence has no place in our society, and that I have a responsibility to speak up, to say something. Congressman John Lewis said it best, and I will be here to do what I can and give everything I have to helping out our Asian American community. And I just want to thank you all for being here, for showing your strength and your power and how right our cause is. Thank you.
He is a senior at Monroe High School, a member of the NAACP Everett Youth Council, and one of the leaders of the Monroe Inclusion Collective. Everyone please welcome Nathan.
Thank you all for being here today.
Hold it right on your mouth.
Thank you all for being here today. Our communities are bleeding when we should be breathing.
Can't hear you.
You gotta hug.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Our communities are bleeding when we should be breathing. Our communities are bleeding when we should be breathing. Our communities are reeling when we should be rejoicing. Our communities are being targeted, and we need America, we need the world to listen to us. Because the current racism and hate-based violence that our communities are seeing is the long-foreseen consequence and dreaded consequence of silence. Deafening silence in the face of the covert crawl of racism has led to the current crisis of racism. And now, our Asian American and Pacific Islander community members, our elders, are afraid to walk the streets. We're fearful of a fateful encounter with somebody who has been taught that we have the face of the enemy. Because all it takes is one encounter with the wrong person while existing as the wrong skin. And while we wince from the trauma that this pain has inflicted upon us, we know that we are not alone. Because the reach of racism has laid waste to so many lives, to too many lives. And so our communities must stand together in a bold act of solidarity against all racism, against all hate. Because even as our liberation and asylum from such forces may see us treading different paths, but make no mistake of it, our paths are interwoven because solidarity is the solution. And the path that we tread is long, it is daunting, it is exhausting. Asian American and our Pacific Islander community members are struggling right now to hold ourselves together in the face of a hate that wishes only for us to fall apart. And so we ask ourselves, where? Where do we draw our strength when so much of it has already been spent? And my friends and family, to that I say that we are created of strength. For the resilience of refugees and immigrants fuels our every footstep. The courage of liberators, freedom fighters, ignites our voice. The compassion of our family animates our arms. And so, my friends and family, we may be in pain right now, but the joy and the pain and the peace and the struggles of generations of ancestors rejuvenates the revolutionaries that reside in our souls and push us forth past accepting the hate that is to daring to dream of the love that can be. In which we are changing the current course of our reality, in which we are moving our communities a step closer, a step forward to the futures that we seek. And though the path that we tread is long, it is far longer than one step, than one moment. And so we step forward today, and we step forward tomorrow, and we step forward the day after, and the day after, because this is not a moment's vision, it is a movement's dream. Thank you, Anson. Thank you, Anson. As a student, my primary concerns before I fell asleep were how many pages of reading did I have to do the next day? How many lectures did I have to watch? Now, as an Asian American, I fall asleep wondering if my family will be safe the next day, if they will be physically assaulted or verbally abused, if I will ever be able to see them again. And I believe many of you gathered here today share my same concerns. We are here because enough is enough. Our AAPI communities will no longer idly stand by as anti-Asian hate crimes and biases continue to spike locally and nationally. Like Anson said, as of February 2021, more than 2,800 anti-Asian hate crimes have been committed nationwide, constituting a 150% spike in anti-AAPI hate crime incidents. I am tired of opening up my phone to news headlines of our people, our elders, brutally shoved, pushed, slapped, stabbed, and even murdered. My parents now ask me, Kang, why are these crimes committed against us? What did we ever do? How do I, a son of immigrants, an immigrant myself, explain to my parents that the country we immigrated to seek a better life, filled with new opportunities, did not want us here? And let's be clear, anti-Asian sentiment and rhetoric have always existed in this country. From the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 to the Japanese internment camps of World War II. This is not new. However, due to certain elected officials falsely characterizing COVID-19, and I quote, as Chinese virus and Kung flu, and the emboldened state of our current country to expose its aggressive and negative racial views, have anti-Asian sentiment and rhetoric been exacerbated in recent times. We must also recognize that anti-Asian hate and biases will not disappear the moment COVID-19 is no more. That is not how it works. Only when we eradicate racism will all communities, not just our Asian American Pacific Islander, but our Black, Indigenous, and communities of color be liberated from racialized hate crimes and biases.
Yeah.
I want to thank the youth who organized this march to demonstrate the collective power of our intergenerational communities to stand in solidarity and denounce the violence perpetrated against our people.
Right.
I ask that everyone here transform the current momentum, energy, and passion from the streets into political action in your respective city halls. Attend city council meetings. Contact your elected officials. And mobilize in front of City Hall. There are various ways to get involved and make your voices heard.
Right.
I will no longer permit the dangerous model minority myth and the erroneous bootstraps mentality to bind our communities to the shackles of humiliation, mindless societal obedience, and political apathy. We must work towards a better future rooted in civic engagement, cultural promotion, identity empowerment, and social justice. I want to end by asking everyone here to join me in a brief moment of silence to remember the lives we have lost. May our present and future actions deliver them justice. We are not silent. The world will hear our voices, they will listen to our stories, and they will remember our faces. Thank you.
Junior from Tahoma High School. She's a junior from Tahoma High School in Chinatown.
How is everyone doing? Come on, guys! Wow, we are powerful. Okay, let's start this, guys. I am not a virus, nor am I a dog eater or a bat eater. I am not a chink or a gook. I am not your ideal Asian stereotype. I am not something or someone that can be defined as your single offensive word. I myself am an individual, someone who fights for justice, someone who fights for the vulnerable, someone who's not afraid to show my culture, to bend this stereotype and to create legacy, to create a change. I stand for and with my elders, my family, my community. I am hopeful for a future without division, hopeful for a future without fear and trepidation. We have hidden silently too long. We need to be loud, we need to be proud, and we need to be fierce. So, we need to show the masses we are more than your moral minority. We are not weak. We are not someone who can be slapped, assaulted, who can be thrown down on a sidewalk, hand in hand, or shall I say mask to mask. Let us unite and show Seattle and show America, show the world who we are. Come on, guys. I'm thankful for everyone, for the communities, and I want everyone to hear our policy members, our elected officials, to make change now. Protect our elders and protect our community. Thank you.
Solution. Is this our neighborhood? Yeah. Let me hear you. Is this our neighborhood? Yeah. Is this our neighborhood? Yeah. Right. I love you. My name is Frank Hasegawa. I have 50 years of community activism, particularly here in the International District. I am proud to be an Asian. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. I am proud to be an Asian American. I will not apologize for being one. I will embrace it. And because of that, I will not accept nor appease any hate crimes committed against me, my family, our people, our community, by any perpetrator, regardless of their race. We have a right to defend ourselves by any means necessary. speak up and stand up to hate crimes. When an Asian, whether an elderly or a woman, claims that an attack on them was a hate crime, then who are we to downplay, debate, or deny their claim that it was a hate crime? We should not be silenced by the specter of systemic racism as a reason not to reporting it. We need to report hate crimes since no one will report it for us. If we're so concerned it will be used as a wedge, then explain that to the family of the 84-year-old Asian elderly who was fatally assaulted while taking his daily walk in San Francisco. Or to the Asian woman school teacher whose face was smashed by a rock and a sock right here in this neighborhood. Did I go on? And here in this neighborhood, we don't worry about over-policing since we don't get enough of it. We get little of it. Think of the late Donnie Chin. In closing, almost 30 years ago, Rodney King, a black man, a victim of police brutality, uttered these words as Los Angeles was engulfed in flames. Can't we all just get together? This question resonates today and needs to be answered now. Thank you. And power to the people!
And in 1982, when he was elected to the Washington House of Representatives, representing South Seattle. In 1996, he made history by becoming the first Chinese-American governor in the United States. He also served as the United States ambassador to China under the Obama administration and is currently serving as the interim president of Bellevue College. Please welcome Mary Locke.
See this sign? Hate is a virus. Let's say it. Hate is a virus. Hate is a virus. Hate is a virus. You know, it was about 150 years ago that the Chinese were rounded up and sent out of Seattle, kicked out of Seattle. In the late 1800s, the United States Congress passed a law that banned the immigration of Chinese. And then later on, here in the state of Washington and all along the West Coast, states passed laws that said Asians, primarily Chinese and Japanese, could not own land. And then, of course, during World War II, Japanese American citizens rounded up and put in concentration camps, internment camps. Why? Because we're treated like foreigners. We're always treated like foreigners. And words matter. When people say it's the China virus, the Wuhan virus, the Kung Flu virus, they're trying to scapegoat Asian Americans for the problems of this country. Except for the Native Americans. We're all foreigners. Whether our ancestors came on the Mayflower, on a slave ship from Africa, or on a steamer from Asia. We're all foreigners. And it's that constant infusion of people from all around the world, of different cultures, languages, ideas, that makes America great. What really makes America great is our diversity. And people who don't know that, they're the ones who don't know what makes America great. We do. This violence against Asian Americans, and especially our elderly, has got to stop. We cannot scapegoat, blame Asian Americans for this virus. Hate is the virus. Hate is the virus. Hate is the virus.
Hate is killer.
The ones who are vandalizing our establishments, the ones who are attacking Asian Americans, they're nothing but cowardly, racist thugs. And we need to stand up
for our rights. We are Americans, like any other group here in this country. Just today, we had a ceremony celebrating the 20,000 Chinese Americans who served during World War II, who gave their blood, sweat, and tears for this country. And having given those blood, sweat, and tears, starting with the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, to working in the lumber camps, the timber towns, and serving in our military for our freedom, we need to show that we care, and we will respect their sacrifices, and we will stand up for our rights. Virus, the real virus is hatred. The real virus is racism. And we will not be afraid. We will not be coward. We will stand tall and proud of our Asian ancestry, of the diversity of America.
Thank you to the young people leading today. Thank you. It's only a few weeks ago that a teacher of the young people was attacked right out here on this street. Noriko Nasu was attacked because of her race, because of hate. And in my own neighborhood, I just found out that a couple who was perceived as Asian was accosted while they were going about their business at an ATM, told to go back to your country. In my neighborhood. What is their country? This is their country. This is our country. If you do not understand the history of Asian Americans in Seattle, in King County, then you do not understand the history of this place, because it is immigrants from Asia, just like immigrants from Europe, just like immigrants from Africa and elsewhere, who literally built this city. This is our country. You know, King County in 2020 filed charges against nearly 60 people for hate crimes. That was an increase from fewer than 40 in just the year before. And we all know why that is. There was a person in the highest office in the land fomenting hate, fomenting racial division, giving permission to racists to speak up and act out. We have to fight back against that, because even though he is gone, they are not. They are among us, and we need to fight them with everything we have. That is why next week I will transmit to our county council a budget measure which includes substantial funding for education, for publicity, for activism, to fight racially based hate and bias in our community. See, my little baby who's here with me today, her mother survived the war in Japan, and then she came here seeking a better life. But she wouldn't teach her daughter, my wife, her native language, because she was afraid that her adopted country would once again turn against the Japanese citizens here and send them back to camps. She was of the generation that felt that she needed to hide her identity, that she needed to try to blend in and avoid emphasizing her ethnic heritage. But we now are able to fight back against that. Each of us has the right to be who we are in this nation, and proud of it. And our little daughter is not happy with us for making her go to Japanese school every Saturday, but damn it, she's gonna do it. So let me just say this. The only way we beat this is united. Nobody can tell us to go back to our country. This is our country. And as Gary said, as Executive Locke said, if anyone's going to be able to say that, Chris, it's going to be those who are the original people of this land. Every one of us is an occupier but them. We are here on occupied land. And we need to treat this place with the respect that is due. That we are not here by right, we are here by privilege. Every single one of us is here on occupied land. So we have to join together now. Join together to fight back against the hate that was unleashed by he whose name shall not be uttered. And we will fight it, because we will not tolerate discrimination, we will not tolerate hate, we will not tolerate violence against Asians or Asian Americans or anyone else based on race in this nation. We will fight them tooth and nail. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me? Thank you very much.
Student at Edmonds Community College who will be sharing their story.
I want to say it's an honor to be here speaking among such figureheads and leaders. It's an honor to be here among the leaders and speakers of the world here. And I'm also privileged and honored to speak amongst them and amongst you all. So thank you for being here, spending your time and voicing your mind. Now, as I was introduced, I am a former Starbucks employee. Now, I could go on and on about how many times I was called a chink, or somebody kind of pulled their eyes a little because their latte tasted a little weird. But I want to talk to you about something that stuck in my mind a little more after my time there. I had a customer come in, and oddly enough, I remember his order, who said, "Can you not make my drink?" And I said, "Yeah, is there any certain reason why? Maybe I can take care of the problem for you." The problem was the color of my skin. He said, "I don't know what you and your people bring over here." Now, I was born here. I'm as American as everyone here and everyone in America. You know, I cannot begin to express the confusion that went over me at the time. I knew what it was. It was racism. It was discrimination at its core. Now, being called chink and other slurs like zipperhead every once in a while, yeah, those were words. But this was an active act of, I don't want to interact with you because you're yellow. At that moment, I felt like a foreigner in my own home. I felt different than the man that stood before me. And I wish I had some cool rebuttal to share with you that I somehow responded to this well. But I'll be honest, I didn't. I didn't know what to say. Because what do you say when simply not saying anything at all was enough for someone to say that you were the problem? So thank you, everyone, for being here, for promoting a stand and taking a stand against Asian American violence and standing up for minorities. All this violence, the hate, the discrimination, all that is wrong with our country, it's gone on way too long. With that, thank you all.
A Japanese teacher at Englemore High School. She's here with her 2 daughters. She was recently attacked with her boyfriend just down the street from here. So please, let's listen with open hearts and open ears and welcome Noriko. having me today. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who have sent me love and support, even though we have never met in person. I'm honored to be here today. So this is exactly what I was wearing on the night of the assault. Same jacket, same pants, same shoes. I had to wash the blood off all of them after the incident. This is a purse that suspect didn't grab, even though he could have done so easily. This is the key to my car, which he didn't want. All he wanted to do was smash my face. After the assault, after he fled, the police were looking for him. All they had was the descriptions of the suspect. And they found him. Do you know where they found him? He was right here at this Kinhei Park. So after he sent me and my partner to ER at Harborview, he stuck around in the neighborhood. What was he doing? Was he looking for more victims? The police, he was not arrested until a week later when police got the video of the attack. King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office is charging the suspect 2 counts of second-degree assault. Here is an email from the office. If the defendant is convicted of both crimes, he would likely face a standard range sentence between 12 to 14 months. Is 12 to 14 months enough? No. The maximum sentence they can give him is 10 years. So after 10 years, or possibly in 12 to 14 months, the suspect can be free and he can come back right here to attack you and me. In terms of a hate crime, this is what they say. As shocking and offensive as this attack was, we currently do not have sufficient evidence to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this crime was maliciously and intentionally committed because of the victim's identity as required by law. They continue to say, our office takes hate crimes very seriously. What do you all feel about this? Do you feel they take our safety seriously? No! I was lucky. I was lucky that I was not hit where it's fatal. I was lucky there was a security camera. Not everyone is so lucky. Since the assault, I was contacted by so many people who share their own story of abuse. I was horrified to know that so many of us has experienced and are experiencing this hate, and nothing has been done. Those are silenced stories, but we're not going to be silent anymore. I grew up in a culture where we are told we have to be nice, polite, humble, be happy with what we have, and don't ask for more. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I would say enough of that. Yes. I would say it's time for us to get angry. It's time for us to demand our stories to be heard. It's time to demand justice. Thank you.
It's a beautiful day in Seattle, but an ugly day in Asian America. My heart goes out to Noriko, and if you're here to support Noriko's justice, say yes. Yes. If you're here to fight, say yes. Yes. If you're here to stand up against this, say yes. Yes. Again, my name's Devin Cavanilla. My family's been here 100 years, and we are still fighting. My family's in its 5th generation in Seattle, and we are still getting picked on. I was working in the district when Noriko got assaulted. A week later, I was working in my office when I heard gunshots outside. And what did I do when I heard those shots? I stood up. I stood up to see what was going on. You've heard it said, turn the other cheek. That doesn't mean take it. That means they didn't hit you hard enough to knock you down. And you're still standing. So turn the other cheek and say, try it again. And we're here to say, try it again, and we are going to stand up and say no. And if you're here to say no, say no. No. If you think this is wrong, say no. No. And we are here for Noriko, and we want her justice. Thank you, everyone. After 100 years, after 150 years, we don't want it to be another year. We want it to be now. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Leaders including Bob Santos from the Asian community, Roberto Maestas from the Latino community, and Bernie Whitebear from the Indigenous community, who came together through a common struggle to fight for civil rights and social change.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'd like to first start by having all of you join me in thanking Kim Kanban and all these beautiful young Asian youth who put this rally together. There is no change that can be made in our community unless we have leaders who are righteous and willing to organize us around the issues that are impacting us and are not fearful of telling everyone who's willing to join the struggle that this struggle is going on and that it will not be solved until we all figure out creative ways of working together. Am I right? Yeah. I want to mention a couple of things that people, I don't know what you're going to say. The man that hit the sister that just spoke, a couple persons before me, here in the International District, here in Chinatown, was an African American. But that does not mean that black or Asian or Latin or Native or progressive white people cannot do ugly things that need to be attended to, need to be challenged, need to be dealt with. I don't want us to say all people of one particular color is all right and all the people in that group is all right, because we have bad and evil as well as good and righteous people in every ethnic group in this country. Yeah. What we want to do is organize the righteous brothers and sisters in every group. And that's what Roberto and Bob and Bernie and I spent 40 years doing. And they're looking down on us now. And they're going to want all of you to figure out a way that you can be involved ongoingly in this effort to defeat and end racial hatred and violence in this country. And if they were here with me, they would tell you that it won't be done unless we're willing to organize across racial lines, Black, Asian, Native, Latino, progressive whites, all together. And not just in the street. We got to go to court when this young lady attacker goes and let them know that we're aware of what's going on, and we want justice for her, and we want justice for our whole community. When the Asian leadership in this community in 1972 heard that the kingdom was going to end about 1/3 of the area down here, tear down all the buildings, and what then was 1/3 of Chinatown, and use it to build apartments that could be close to the new ballpark being built. The Asian community and its adult leaders and its young people like all of you came together and said, no way, Jose, you ain't gonna just ruin our community without a fight. And that's what they did. They organized themselves and then got the rest of us throughout the greater Seattle community to work with them for meaningful social change. And that's what we got to do here. All of you got to figure out a way that you can sign up to participate in this struggle to end racial crime. And you should be figuring out a way to support Kim Con-Vaughn, who's running for county council, Shakri, who's here, who's running for county council, any progressive politicians that are going to be right.
Off to you. My name is Nisiha Zahn, and as usual, I walk in the footsteps of Councilmember Larry Gossett. The future is bright. The future is bright because we have amazing youth organizers. Please give a major shout out to the youth organizers who put on this event. The future is bright when young people like Anson and Deborah and Kang are leading the way. They're paving the way for a paradigm shift, for a culture change. And we need that culture change. Because for far too long, we have been way too silent about anti-Asian hate. Right. All around our nation, our Asian neighbors are being harassed, taunted, and attacked. Asian Army veterans are getting jumped. AAPI-owned restaurants are suffering because of ignorant beliefs regarding the virus. And most heartbreakingly, Asian elders are being attacked in their own homes. They don't even have the safety of their own streets to walk in. This needs to stop. Now answer these questions for me and shout out yes if you agree. Do you commit to naming and shaming anti-Asian bias, especially if it's your friends and family? Yes! Do you commit to reporting harassment and verbal attacks against our API neighbors? Yes! Do you commit to standing with and protecting our Asian and Pacific Islander families, especially our elders, against attacks? Yes! Calling out and reporting Asian hate is important, but we all know it's not the full picture. Because when I was living in Rainier Vista and Holly Park, guess who were my neighbors and friends living right there next to me in low-income public housing? It was Chinese, Cham, Vietnamese, Filipino neighbors. When I was living in a homeless shelter right here with the Union Gospel Mission right across the street from Uwajimaya, who were my neighbors? Japanese, Filipino, Chinese neighbors right down the street, experiencing the same social and economic oppression that I as a black immigrant was going through. We have to support our Asian American neighbors, destroy the model myth minority, destroy the myth that they are somehow insulated from the social and economic oppression of this country. We have to support API-owned businesses which are struggling because of racism and xenophobia. We have to invest in housing and protect API communities who are also under the threat of gentrification and displacement right here in the CID. We have to fix the economic conditions that lead Filipino nurses who make up We have to fix the economic conditions that lead Filipino nurses to make up 33% of COVID deaths when they are only 4% of the nursing population in the United States. We have to better serve our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities, which are some of the most disproportionately impacted by COVID-19.
And today, we all stand together, not only to call out hate and harassment, but to fix these economic conditions that continue to brutalize and displace our API communities. That's what we are all here for. When I say stand together, you all say stand together. Stand together. Stand together. Stop the hate. Stop the hate. Stand together. Stand together. Stop the hate. Stop the hate. Stand together. Stand together. Stop the hate. Stop the hate. Stand together. Stand together. Stop the hate. Stop the hate. Thank you so much.
Representatives in 1998. Her key policy interests include civil rights, women's rights, economic and environmental justice, affordable housing, and quality public education.
Thank you so much for being here and showing your solidarity with this community and with all of us who comprise it. I am here to talk about one thing. That one thing is courage. You heard our ambassador talk about a really moving ceremony just a few hours ago that I was also able to observe, where we honored and recognized 5 living Chinese American World War II veterans receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor, one of 2 highest recognitions given by this nation. Our veterans ranged in age from 94 to 103. And this belated recognition was for their extraordinary service to the United States of America. I want to begin by asking if any of you are relatives of those World War II Chinese American veterans who received the Congressional Medal of Honor today, or received it even though they are no longer with us. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you are one of those relatives. If any of you, I want to talk about courage. If any of you have relatives who served during World War II in the armed forces of the United States, standing up against fascism, racial bigotry, and hatred, raise your hand. I want to talk about courage. If any of you are related to somebody who is currently serving in the armed services of the United States, raise your hand. Raise your hand, because we are all in this together. Every single one of you who raised your hand had somebody who fought for our country, yes. But more important, they fought for an ideal. They fought for the notion that all are created equal, and that here in the United States, we seek a more perfect union so that all people will enjoy life, liberty, and the ability to pursue their happiness. They fought for their families here, for their younger brothers and sisters who were forced to wear "I am Chinese" buttons. Why? Because at the time, our country had identified the Japanese as the enemy, and this was to distinguish our Chinese brothers and sisters from those who were Japanese. We know that this country has a long history of targeted, deadly attacks on Asian Pacific Islanders, mixing
that potion, that lethal potion of fear and hate with racial bias and xenophobia. From the expulsion of the Chinese just a few miles from here to today, where we hear from people like Noriko who are attacked right here in our neighborhood, doing nothing but enjoying a night out on the town. These attacks were fomented by a sick megalomaniac who thankfully is no longer in the White House, but we are still targeted by the wake of hate and fear and racial bias and xenophobia that he created. I stand here because we want to call out people like those who attacked Noriko's son, people who attacked our elders in San Francisco and in New York and right here in the Seattle-King County area as cowards. They are cowards. But this rally means to represent that we are the children and grandchildren of courage, of people who stood up to racial bias, of people who stood up to xenophobia, of people who stood up to fascism. We are here to say we are not a scapegoat. We are not a virus. We are not your enemies. We are not silent. Instead, we join together here to show our solidarity, that we stand with our brothers and sisters who are also being attacked by racial bigotry and violence. We stand by our elderly, our vulnerable. We stand with those who came before us. We stand for courage. You know, as I close, I want to just say one thing, and that is, we have to give credit to the youth who organized this event today. Every generation calls upon our young people to take up the ideals that were fought for courageously by our grandparents, by our parents, by our uncles and aunts. I'm so glad that we have some of our OGs here, people like Larry Gossett, people like Frankie Aragon, others. You heard them invoke the Gang of Four. The original Gang of Four included my husband Bob. And I wonder what he would be thinking today. If he was here, he would be so proud of all of the youth who stood by their community to say, this is ours, this is our inheritance. Our parents and our grandparents showed the courage to build this community for us, and we stand here to stand up to division and hatred and xenophobia as a united community. I know that that is what Bob would want me to say. Thank you to all of you for taking up arms. There's no greater fight than to fight for this ideal. Thank you.
So most of you know I came out of the labor movement. So while we're here trying to emphasize that we're not going to tolerate racism against our community,
I also want to share a perspective coming from the labor movement, because the number one principle out of the labor movement is solidarity. Whatever divides us against each other is bad, but whatever unifies us is good, because we build power that way, and that's what it's all about, is building power for the people. So while we're here demonstrating that we are not going to tolerate anti-Asian racism, I also want to put it in the context that many other communities are being attacked right now. And it's because of the racist undertones going throughout the country and the growing fascism, not just in the US, but internationally. That's a direct result of the corporate power that's taking over the world. We as a people need to stand together in solidarity. So we need to stand with our black brothers and sisters. We need to stand with our Native brothers and sisters. We need to stand with our brown brothers and sisters. And as a united voice, say, we want our justice for our people. We want justice for everybody. So that's just my small piece here, is to try to put this into context. We do not tolerate racism against our family, but our family is large. And we are powerful when we stand together. So there's 4 basic rules. Educate, agitate, organize, and mobilize. That's how we build, not just build our power, but we assert our power. Because what good is power if you don't use it for the people? Educate, agitate, organize, and mobilize. Let's move forward together, brothers and sisters.
One of the few legislators in Washington State of Asian descent, it is such an honor to see so many great people standing in solidarity with our communities, because as we fight this pandemic and as we fight the hate, it will take all of us here today fighting for one another to get through this time. And I really appreciate everybody being here, because in our fight for justice, we know that we have to stand in solidarity together. I'll keep it pretty short. I want to say thank you to the organizers and the youth who've been here, who've organized, who are raising awareness on these issues, and I appreciate everybody spending the time with us this afternoon as well. Thank you so much.
I'm here because I'm pissed off. And I'm here because we want justice. 1 year later, and we have a vaccine, and yet racism still runs rampant throughout our communities, right here at home and across the nation. We would be well advised to take note that yes, since the outbreak of COVID-19, anti-Asian sentiment and racism, acts of hate and bias has peaked against our community members, but you know what? Hate crimes have been on the rise for 5 years against black folks and Jewish folks, and we are all impacted by a common oppressive system called white supremacy. I gave birth during a pandemic to a multiracial child, and I don't want her to have to live in a world where she's judged because of her ancestry. But you know what? If she is, then I want her to be in a world where people come out like this and will stand in solidarity, not just for her, but with her, because together we're stronger. That's right. And for everyone, there is an equal and opposite force. And I look to you, my beautiful, loving, resilient community, to give me strength. And to our Asian brothers and sisters, and all others against whom racism rears its ugly head. I stand with you. I love you.
All right.
Justice is perpetually on its way. And I'm so filled with love for all of you, and I thank you, and I stand with you. So let's hear it. What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! Thank you.
and their families by creating opportunities for them to succeed and while honoring their heritage. CISD was formed by community volunteers in Chinatown in 1972 and now serves immigrants throughout all of King County.
There is no place for hate in the Chinatown International District. There is no place for hate in Seattle, in King County, or anywhere. This place is a place for history, for culture, for art, for entrepreneurship, and for community. As Executive Director of CISC, we are a member of the Coalition Against Hate and Bias, which is supported by the King County Office of Equity and Social Justice. CISD is a member, the Seattle Chinatown PDA is a member, United Indians of All Tribes is a member, East Side for All is a member. We need your support to advocate for more funding for the King County Coalition Against Hate and Bias. We are a trusted place where you can report incidents of hate and bias. We have staff who speak Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Russian. And we can report incidents of hate and bias and develop a strong network. So if we know that our elders are walking down the street in a certain neighborhood and they're experiencing hate and bias, if we know if our community is riding a bus line and they're experiencing hate and bias, if our community is going to a grocery store and experiencing hate and bias, they can report it to a trusted place that speaks their language, that understands their culture, and we can use our community support and our strength standing together to activate ourselves just like we are today. So please contact your county council members to expand funding for the Coalition Against Hate and Bias. And if you need support, please contact CISC or the Seattle Chinatown PDA or United Indians of All Tribes or East Side for All. Help us expand this network. Thank you very much.
Now I'm your commissioner at the Port of Seattle. But today I'm here not as a commissioner. I'm not here as an elected official. Hell, I'm not even here as a leader. I'm here today as a proud son of immigrants, as a product of this community, and as a proud Asian American. And we are here today to stand up to the hate, the violence, the bigotry, and the xenophobia that this community, our community, has been faced for the past year and for the past decades, for the history of this country. We're here to say that we will not stand idly by while our women and our elderly are targeted on the streets in our communities and in the parking lots of our communities. We are here to stand in solidarity and in allyship with the broader fight against racism and bigotry and institutionalized racism in this country. We stand together today to say that if you attack our women, we will stand up and we will fight back. Right. If you attack our elderly, we will stand up and we will fight back. If you attack anyone in this community, we will stand up. We will fight back. Stand up! Fight back. Stand up! Fight back. Stand up! Fight back. Stand up! Fight back. And to my non-Asian brothers and sisters here today, you have shown your solidarity. You have demonstrated that allyship and solidarity goes both ways. That at the end of the day, we are all in this together. That we will fight for justice together. And that we will stand up and we will fight back. Thank you.
You normally don't see me out during the daytime because I organize the Seattle Chinatown International District Night Watch. Have you heard of us? Yes. We meet here every day at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock to, not every day, 3 days a week now. 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock every week. PM. In the dark, in the streets, in the cold, in the fog, in the smoke. We are always out here. And what we are seeing today is nothing new. We're out here breaking up fights and putting out literal fires and feeding the homeless and doing whatever we can to be an alternative to maximal use of force policing. And what we're
seeing here, what we've been seeing in the last couple of months is nothing new, and it's not going to go away quick. But what I see here gives me hope. Where are my Chinese at? Where are my Japanese at? Where are my Koreans at? Where are my Vietnamese at? Where are my Sri Lankans at? Almost. But they told me I only got 3 minutes, so I have to finish this up, so I can't name everybody. But we can't even agree on one set of rules for Mahjong. But we're out here, all together, getting organized. So all of you, now is a good time to be out here marching, but what are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing next week? What are we doing next year? It doesn't end now. Stay together, stay organized, solidarity now, solidarity forever.
Wow, this is amazing how many people are here last summer when we painted all the murals in solidarity for the businesses and the community, right? At every turn, we are coming together in solidarity to say that whatever happens to our community, we say no. It is not okay, right? When rocks were thrown at the windows, what did we do with our community? We showed up and we painted beautiful murals in solidarity when we had our black brothers and sisters that were going through the racism. And now we are here in solidarity for our own community. And to hear from Larry Gossett and Gurmai talk about in solidarity with our Asian brothers and sisters, this is what we're called to do as electeds, to activate and get everyone to stand up and just say no. And stand up and be in solidarity and united. And when we do that, people are paying attention. I will tell you, in addition to Bellevue, I'm also part of the National League of Cities AAPI elected officials. We are not showing up in that space either. Why? Because we are taught to be quiet, just do our work, and don't make trouble. But you know what? People are paying attention now. They're saying that this stuff that's happening to our community, whether it's in New York, or LA, or Seattle, it is not okay. So let's make sure that we are shouting loud about stopping Asian hate, respecting our elders, and that hate is a virus. Who's with me? Who's with us? So here's my ask of everyone. If you have a social media, take some pictures, talk about it, tell your neighbors. Because what I heard from Michael Iti is that there's been 160 incidents that they have heard from CISC of the community that have been taunted, that have had race and violence happen to the community. Are we hearing about those? No. So we need to rise up with our voices, raise up that flyer there, right? Because here's what it's all about. Solidarity is about each of us being brave enough to share the stories when things happen to us, when things happen to our neighbors. Because last summer, when I was home working, I started hearing that there were people in Bellevue that had China virus in their neighbors. They were putting it on their windows. That's not okay. No. That's not okay. No. So every time we see something like that, we've got to call it out. Because otherwise, no one knows that anything is happening to us. We're just suffering in silence. Well, silence is not good enough anymore. And I call on all of us also to denounce the idea of this model minority, that somehow we are just such quiet and studious little Asians. So we're not going to make trouble. Is that us? No, that's not us anymore. So let's rise up in solidarity and join in. Thank you.
Asian Pacific Islander Americans for Civic Engagement. Please welcome Kim.
All right, can we scream and yell and clap for our youth and young scholars today? Thank you everyone for being here, and thank you all for our elders for paving the way for us to be here for this day. I just want to take a quick 1 minute and time me please, because we're ready to march. We're ready to march.
We're here rallying in the street. Let's bring this energy to the councils. Bring this energy to comment. Tell your representatives, tell your electeds, tell them what their policies are doing. Because if it didn't come from the former leadership from federal, this wouldn't have happened as much, right? We know racism existed. But come on now, let's take this energy we have today. Not just stop today after the rally and the march, but go to the council meetings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right, can you all do that? You'll make a promise to me, right? Yes? All right. I have good news that our scholars, not just on the 4 days event, it became more than a week. So every day this week we will have a rally throughout King County. So stay tuned, y'all. We need you. And that, but it's not gonna be done after this week. So please take this energy to council. And I'm so thankful for our elders, for our youth, for our peers, and everything that we've gotten, and that we should always remember. As we march forward, we also have to remember our history, our AAPI history. And that I know that Anthony is ready with the chant, so I'm not going to have any more time here. So thank you, everybody.
Over here. Come see the crowd.
I know. There's like only like 6 guys left by the end of the Oh
红姨你好，辛苦了辛苦了。
啊，没有办事。
Far away.